Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of It's Bigger Than Business podcast. I'm Manny Larcher, and I'm very excited to welcome our guest today, Gly Gabriel. Good morning, Gly. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing very well, feeling really blessed and grateful to be sitting with you, to be having this conversation, and to just start a potential dialogue with yourself and all of the listeners of this podcast.
I appreciate it. And just to give everybody a recap, this podcast inspired by uh, Collaborate and Elevate, which Danny Ortiz and myself, we really kind of conceptualized along with Michael Red during 2018 during the Wave Innovation Center at The Ohio State to really have a community and a physical place where people could come together. It was a free co-working office. And that's actually how we got connected. So let's start a little bit about that because I think that is always so interesting as well. And
Yeah, and that's what I love about life, just like the serendipity of it all. Where I went to Ohio, first time ever, to go to a a summit of greatness held hosted by Lewis Howes. And so I hit
yep.
up Lewis Howes because I've been following his podcast and his content for some time, or at that stage in my life. And I was like, hey, I'm coming. I would love to support you with your summit in some way. And he was like, yeah, like feel free, come through. You can like volunteer. You can help us like really set this create this event. And the funny thing is, like, I ended up I didn't have it was like so spur of the moment. I didn't have a place to stay. I just ended up reaching out to people, and then a friend of mine connected me with Uriel, who worked with you and your digital marketing business, and then Uriel, who is now a good friend of mine, or a decent friend of mine, and we ended up he took me to the Wave, just to like showing me around Ohio, Columbus, and I got to the Wave, and then we connected just like randomly, like you were there, like he works with you, and then Danny was there, Michael Red was there, Danny Ortiz, Michael Red was there, and we all just kind of like spoke and it started like this wonderful friendship that you and I have now. I'll never forget, like because I did a vlog then, and like I kind of like captured those first moments and it's on YouTube for anybody that wants to check it out. But
I want to check it out.
yeah,
Yeah.
you should definitely check it out. And I also remember, like, in the conversation with Danny too, he asked me, he's just like, who are you? And 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 I think people typically answer that question with like, okay, what do they do? Like I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a transformational coach. I went to Harvard, I worked at Morgan Stanley, I travel around the world, and now I'm helping individuals like transform their lives. But bigger than that, I always like to start with the why. And so I told him, I was like, I'm a possibility. And he looked at me and I was like, yeah, like, like it was just like an instant connection. But that's just the truth, and I really believe that we're all just possibilities. We're all like in this life, kind of going through our different walks, looking at this world through our different lens and exploring, but how we live our life can be a possibility for other people, and so I try to live
Wow.
my life in as such, as a way to show people, like, whatever the constructs are, the rules around that's just the norms in society that we've been kind of born into, that's one potential possibility that we can follow. Yet we each are unique individuals, and we can, when we really allow ourselves to connect with who we are at our core and express that to the fullest, we become a new possibility in the world that perhaps could inspire and empower others. And so, yeah.
Man, I love that. I love that possibility.
Yeah.
And you covered a lot of different things where you went, Harvard, Morgan Stanley. So I mean, you're a fairly young guy as well, too, right?
Yeah.
So where where were you at on that phase? Were you leaving Morgan Stanley when you came
Mm-hmm.
to the Wave, and maybe just tell folks a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
yeah.
So at the time that we met, I had already left Morgan Stanley. I'd probably been like 4 or 5 years out. But quick background. I came from, I live in Newark, New Jersey now, and that's like where my family lives, my hometown. And I was able to get out of the inner city, go to like a boarding school for high school. And then I was able, that set me up to go to like Harvard University, where I studied biomedical engineering. Thought I was going to be an engineer or a doctor, but ended up, like the masses of Harvard and, just Ivy League students, I ended up going into finance. And so I was working on Wall Street at Morgan Stanley for a couple of years, but very quickly within like the first year of just grinding it out, making lots of money, doing the thing, reaching like the pinnacles of success, I saw that I wasn't happy. And it hit me like a sack of like a bag of bricks. And I just asked myself, are you happy? Is this all that there is? Because I had a feeling that if I stayed in that space, the golden handcuffs would just keep me going. And whatever that light was, whatever that unique thing that I was here in this world to do, I probably wouldn't express it, because you'll get the car, the mortgage, the family, and it's just, and then the lifestyle kind of keeps you a prisoner to that way of to this path that perhaps is not necessarily for you. And so I ended up leaving, traveling around the world, really starting to get connected with like who I am and what it is I'm in this world to do, which is ultimately to inspire and empower people to just get out of their own way, and to actually live in alignment with who they are, and start to express that unique gift that they have in the world. And so by the time that you met me, I was actually starting my own transformational coaching business, and where I'm helping individuals kind of get through what that phase, making that transition. And yes, so it's, it's been like a few years out, and I tried a bunch of different businesses and, social media marketing, videography, but ultimately the calling like that I had when I was actually at Morgan Stanley, and I met this coach, an executive coach who we got coffee, we connected, and she was just like, oh man, you've got it. Like, you should actually do this thing. But the imposter syndrome was real at that point. And I was just like, who am I? I'm like 23, 24 years old. Like, what can I offer people? But that calling, it kept nagging me. And so I ended up going all in by the time we met. And it's been an amazing ride since then, where I'm able to really help people or empower people to make that transition, to transform into like the fullest version of themselves, and to go and put that out into the world and create their realities, like I like to say.
I love it. I would love to hear some stories about some of the people you've worked with. I think we focus too much on the marketing of what we do, as just opposed to just saying how we're helping. So any success stories you'd like to share?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like one of my favorite success stories is this young brother named Dandrew, and he came to me right after he got laid off. And so he was laid off. He didn't have he was a UX designer, and he didn't have a job at this point. And but we connected through LinkedIn, and in our first sort of consultation, he connected with this desire to just be happy, to be joyous, to be fulfilled, and to be making money out of what he's good at. And over the course of the working together, we helped we worked together to help start to deconstruct some of the narratives, some of the belief systems that he had that were kind of in the way of him actually getting into action and making and starting to manifest the things that he wanted in his life. And one of the things I really enjoyed as well is just that once you start to see like how your mind is working, like become aware of your thoughts and how your thoughts influence how you feel, and how that emotion, the your being, as I like to call it, that you're embodying impacts the actions that you take and the reality that you're living in. Once he started to see that the loops that he was in, he created enough separation that he could then choose to think a new thought, and to think a thought that was more empowering, that felt better. One of the things that he came up with was just like, I'm the one. And when he connected with this I am the one part of him, it was like his access to, if he was like Clark Kent, then all of a sudden he's Superman, and or if he were Neo or Thomas Anderson in The Matrix, now all of a sudden he's Neo. And so with that, he started to, within the first couple of days of us working together, the job that hired him back as a contractor to get for his expertise. By the end of the program, he had a full-time job. Now he's like making well into the six figures, doing his thing like in the UX design space, and really looking to continue like leveling up and seeing where that next phase of his life will take him. And so this is just like one of many stories where people are just getting out of their own way, seeing like the patterns that they've been stuck in for a long time that have them not actually step into their greatness, and letting that go and embracing like their truest selves, their core essence, and then starting to align their lives and their careers with that.
That's an incredible story. And just through our conversations, I could feel that energy, when we're talking, and I could totally agree. I think that, unfortunately, we're our own worst enemy, and it's really just letting go and really just, being open to learning and I'm reading Ray Dalio's Principles right now. Yeah, and there's just so many really good nuggets in there.
What I love what you said, letting go, right? Like that's the key. It's like that surrender, that letting go. I think oftentimes we think that there's more, and it's beautiful to learn and to learn how to do the thing, but oftentimes the biggest thing that we can do is just shift our perspective. Because if you're able to shift your perspective, to let go of like the old narratives that are holding you back, that are keeping you blind to all of the opportunities, to all of the abundance, to the well-being that's available to you, then you're able to actually start to seize that, and it feels good, And so just getting out of our own way, letting go of what doesn't serve you, and stepping into new narratives, listening to reading a book like Ray Dalio's and taking on some of his belief systems that feel better for you even.
Yeah. And so what do you think that is? Do you think we all just have an inner desire to be like perfect? And is it like perfectionism? What is it?
I mean, honestly, it's the context of being human is almost like survival. We like our brains, we've been adapted to survive. But the challenge is, for most people, they don't realize that this brain that's trying to keep you surviving it's like almost it's from the past, like the threats that we experienced before, we no longer experience right now. So whereas in the past it might have been like surviving from, like, I don't know, a saber-toothed tiger or what have you, now is the same mechanism that has you fight or flight is being used with having a conversation with someone about growing your business, a prospective client. And there's this fear that comes up, and it's like, I like, what will they think? What if I fail? Like this, like, and we freeze, or we run away. It's just this constant survival that oftentimes we inherit biologically. And then on top of that, there's a layer of just like socialization. We see how our parents and how our society operates, and their conditioning, we start to take it on ourselves. And so it perpetuates this cycle that is not that you don't have to believe in. And so if your parents came from a place where they're just like struggling and to make ends meet, and like money doesn't grow on trees, you start to like take on their conversations around money, or like your like self-worth. And even though at one point, maybe you were like so creative and you wanted to go and talk to people, and then, hey, don't do that. Come over here and sit down, behave yourself. That constriction from your parents, whatever their conditioning was, whatever their traumas were, whatever had them in their lifetime be like, you have to be a certain way, they're putting that on you. And then you take that on, and it almost like dims your light because you believe that that's true. And so a lot of the work that we have to do as adults, and especially if you're like listening to this right now, you have the opportunity to just become aware of the narratives that are happening in your mind and your being. What are the conditioning, like the conditioned responses and your reactions that you have to life, and recognizing that you don't have to succumb to that you're actually not in the survival mode, that actually you have everything that you need. Like we all have these cell phones, these iPhones and whatnot. This technology is more advanced than the technology our whole country had, you know, during like World War II. With this, you can be a millionaire, a billionaire, you know, quite literally.
Yeah.
You have everything you need to create whatever it is that you desire. But if you're focused on the lack, the fear, the scarcity, you're focused on like, what will people think? What will my dad and my mom think? What will my friends think? That's stopping you from seizing the opportunities that are around you.
100%. It goes back to what you said, all the possibilities. And, you know, if you're listening to this, we're saying you really have to look in the mirror and you have to just let all that stuff go. Let off that you know, that it's fear, you know, that kind of succumbs in. Obviously, it's not easy. And one of the things I like about, you know, Ray Dalio's book, it's leaning into that and being accustomed to that feeling, you know, and learning how to, you know, be your most creative self and just not also, you know, changing kind of who you are. You know, that book has a lot of, I think, very just, no matter, you know, how advanced you think you are, you know, communication wise, I think there's just something in that book that will, you know, maybe I should listen a little bit more in the situation, or, you know, and there are different things that you pick up. So
100%.
Yeah, I think for me, and I'm very excited to kind of jump into what you're doing in Newark and with the Entrepreneur House and things like that. But from my own personal journey, I really think consistency, right? Like they say you have to do something for 18 months before it becomes consistent. You know, we're now in year 5 in business. And I remember about when COVID started, I was really unhappy just where I was at physically, and really kind of dedicated to like going to the gym and, you know, eating better. And then now, you know, now 18 months, it's now like a habit. You know, I woke up this morning, ran a couple miles, went to the gym, you know, came here just before I got started. Now I'm ready for the day, you know, and I think that in my opinion was a lot harder than anything that I've ever done from a business standpoint.
Because you're reprogramming yourself and like you're creating these new habits, these new thought patterns, these new actions, these new behaviors and you're breaking old ones, and often it's like neurons that fire together are wired together, right? You know, like if you've been being a certain way for so long, it's hard to break out of those pathways that have been grooved over decades. And so now you're creating new pathways, which can be challenging, but I think it also can be quite exciting if you choose to look at it from that perspective.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So tell us about what you're doing in Newark.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this idea. We'll happily support it.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm really excited right now. So I have a 3-family home in Newark, and like so rewind actually. I've traveled around the world quite a bit, and last year I traveled to Aruba and then Costa Rica for a couple of months. And even when I was backpacking for like over a year around Latin America after leaving Morgan Stanley, there's been this recurring question that I've been kind of pondering, which is, you know, what is home, and where do I want to set roots? And ultimately, I realized that home, like the world is my home, the globe is my home. And so I want to really feel like I can go into any part of this world and be at home there. But I also recognize that it does help to have like firmly planted roots somewhere so that you're able to then go off and continue to expand. And so, you know, as I was traveling over the past year, I was like kind of exploring that. Do I see myself living in Aruba? Do I see myself living in Costa Rica? Should I go travel to, you know, East Asia to see that vibe? But then I came back to Newark, where my parents settled, you know, when I was in middle school or so, and there was something just kind of clicked, and I was like, wow, like I'm like looking everywhere, but what if I just start with what I already have, you know? And, you know, like I have this amazing property, and what would it look like to really make this home for myself as an adult, with this new way of seeing the world, with this new way of being? Because the last time I was in Newark was honestly when I was in was like 14 years old, because I went to boarding school, and I haven't really been in here like in Newark for an extended period of time since then. But I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just stay here. Something was calling me to just stay and create roots here. And when one of the apartments opened up, instead of trying to rent it out, I thought, what if I transform this space to be a space where yes, perhaps some parts of the month we can Airbnb it, but more than that, creating this energy, this vibe, this new possibility, where you walk in and you just feel like a breath of fresh air, where you can literally just let go of the worries, let go of the fear, and step into a space of just endless possibilities. And what if I created this space where other leaders in Newark, entrepreneurs, creatives can come together and break bread, or listen to a master class and participate in workshops, or learn about NFTs and DAOs. Or what if I transform this space to be a space where we can meditate together, do yoga together, live together. It's just like really this idea of space, that you can literally create the space to whatever your need is. It's been like kind of really inspiring me. And so since being back and being firmly planted in Newark more and more, I renovated, I cleaned out the space, and now I'm starting to reach out to different individuals in the community to just learn a little bit more about what do they see for Newark, and just like quite frankly for the world, like what type of reality do you want to live in,
So are you inviting them to the space to have these conversations, or are you there yet?
That's a great question. I haven't yet, because there's not really any furniture yet. But
okay.
what I would like to do, like I'm just having initial conversations, and I'm starting to seed it with talking to people like you, and talking to like my community, like my different communities, and just sharing like this idea, and people are throwing out ideas and like making me new connections, and like even like this space that like cleaning the space, I found local individuals in the city who came in to do that. And so I'm like finding the different businesses and individuals that I can partner up with to co-create this space, because I've done a lot of just, okay, this is what I envision, and like I'm going to do it this way, but what would it look like to be like, hey, what do you envision?
Yeah.
And so that's a great idea. I literally having people come into this space, maybe I'll just get like some chairs, put a table, and just start talking and just generating ideas. But so far it's just been having conversations with individuals. Like I'm having a conversation with an entrepreneur who owns like the local corner store down the block. I just connected with a councilwoman, who's a woman who's running for a city council. I've been like talking to different individuals around the block, just like having conversations about what do they see for Newark. It's happening slowly and organically, and it's like a really fun creative project that I think that I know I'll be able to leverage for all of the other amazing things that I'm creating, and that hopefully that we're creating in Newark and in the world.
I love it. And I could definitely relate to having that sense of community. I've lived in Columbus for 25 years, so I could definitely kind of relate to that, and wanting to just give back and just connect with the community,
Facts.
So
yeah, exactly. It's just like I think it's like service is it feels good. It feels abundant, when you're able to recognize that like there's just so many opportunities, and your winning does not take away from my winning. Like in actuality, we all, when you're winning, I win. And it's just like a rising tide raises all ships. And so I've done so much work internally to transform who I am. I've helped individuals one-on-one transform their lives. And now I'm looking to how do we scale this work? How do we scale this idea that we create our realities? And the way I see it is just like, okay, starting with the leaders, the people that are in positions of influence, and that have communities or that are linchpins in this community, and then continuing to expand. And so we're starting in Newark, and then eventually what would it look like to expand to different cities in the United States? And then what would it look like to expand that to other continents, like it's just
Yeah.
like a constant expansion. But if we could do it here, then I believe that we'll be able to do it everywhere.
And you're doing it, and you're
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
And your experience is already global, the things you've already experienced. So it's, the marketer in me is just goes to that consistent and put it out there.
Exactly.
That's where, I'm grateful to have you on our podcast. We're definitely going to share this to our audience. And, I think just that level of consistency and, staying ready for the opportunities that are out there. So
well said.
I'm super excited for you.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I'll definitely keep you posted on how all this goes. And like you said, it is about the consistency. Like I think about relationships, and you can have a relationship with a person, you can have a relationship with the space, you can have a relationship with the city, like with nature, with the earth, and it's about that consistency. It's about like building that trust over time, and then little by little, organically, it's like, oh, have you heard about this? Have you heard about this person? And it just kind of builds momentum over time. And so, yeah.
100%. It's that goes back to the gym analogy. 18 months. In business, we start a company and we want it to be successful. 3 months later. But it's those little things, like the 30 minutes in every day, right? And
exactly.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but it's
it doesn't take much. It literally it's like Bruce Lee, I think, says, I fear not the man who kicks a tree 1,000 times in one day. I fear the man who kicks a tree one time for 1,000 days. Wow. that consistency, over and over again. Find, like, how do you make it as easy for yourself to win as possible, and just do the smallest thing over and over and over again. And eventually, sometimes you just start a little bit, and then you do a lot more than you would have imagined before. Like, just it's all about that consistency, essentially. So no,
100%. And I think, I'll give the Kanye documentary a shout out. There's when young Kanye he was always confident. There was never. So I think that's one thing too that, it's important. You have to be confident in your beliefs and what you're doing, because that's going to attract, others to support you and to take that risk. And if you're unconfident in your own beliefs, then, I'm going to be a little bit, unsure whether or not you can take on this responsibility.
Exactly. But then how does one access that confidence? And that's the challenge for a lot of people, and I think that's my work as a transformational coach. It's about, as a meditation teacher, is about helping you create enough separation from whatever those old patterns of thinking and being are, that has you think you're not worthy, that has you think that you can't do something, that has you feel fear, and being like, I'm not that, and choosing consciously in this moment, in this present moment, to believe something else, and to nurture, to like you said, you're going to the gym for your body. Let's go to the gym for our spirit, for our minds, for our souls, right? Like building this new belief system over and over and over again, moment by moment, day by day, until it just, you reach a tipping point where you're just like, yeah, like I said that I could, and then I took a new action, and then new results came. Oh, wow. And then that starts to build like a new feedback loop. You're building, like, you're rewiring your brain. And over time, you'll be able to speak with that conviction because you've been showing up in a certain way. But it started with you shifting your belief system, you shifting how you feel consistently over time, such that your actions then follow from that this deep inner core space inside of you.
Man, I feel that, and I'm going to share this too. There are a few people that I know, I think would really enjoy this conversation. I just thank everybody for tuning in. But glygabriel.com.
Yep.
How can people get in touch with you? What's the easiest way?
So the easiest way would probably be through your social media platform of choice, but I'm, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, at Glyvolner, and Glyvolner is actually my full first name. So GLYVOLNER, or you could go to glygabriel.com/coaching if you want to, explore coaching, or just check out some of my other stuff. But yeah, I'm of service. You can find me anywhere. So Yeah.
There's a lot that I think we should do, a conference, an event. I'm excited to continue growing. And yeah, thank you for joining us on the pod, and wishing you all a great day.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Take care.